Researchers at Harvard followed 2,225 people through their actual days, not in a lab, in their real lives. And they found that nearly half of every waking day, 46.9%, people were thinking about something other than what they were doing.
Wait, half?
Nearly half. And that's not the part that stopped me. The part that stopped me was what the wandering was doing to those people. It wasn't making them less productive, it was making them unhappy. And the wandering wasn't a symptom of unhappiness. The researchers tested for this. The wandering came first. It caused the unhappiness.
So it's not, I'm sad, so my mind wanders. It's the other way around.
The wandering comes first, which means the life you keep saying you'll fully live when things calm down, the data says that's not where it was ever going to come from. Today, we're looking at Finding Focus, Own Your Attention in an Age of Distraction by Dr. Zelana Montminy. She's a positive psychology expert and clinician, and this book isn't a productivity manual. It ends somewhere most focus books never go, somewhere I didn't expect.
What do you mean?
Most books about focus are trying to help you get more done, better output, cleaner systems, more hours wrung from the day. And this book starts there. It looks like it's going there. But by the end, it's asking a completely different question, one most people have never thought to ask about focus at all.
Which is what?
We'll get there, but I'll tell you this much. The answer has nothing to do with productivity. And once you hear it, the whole reason you'd want to fix your focus shifts entirely. We build to it across everything that comes next. Don't skip ahead. Hold on to that idea. Everything we cover from here on out is the walk toward it. The self-help industry has a specific story about why focus fails. It says you lack discipline. You need a better system, a better habit stack, a better app. There's a new one every season. And somehow, every season, the problem persists.
Right, because people don't stick to the systems. They buy the planner, they use it for 2 weeks, and then it becomes a very expensive coaster.
That's part of it, but Montmany's argument is more structural than that. She's saying the systems keep failing not because we're undisciplined, but because we're trying to build focus on top of a foundation that isn't there yet. And most people never find out that's what's happening, because the failure always looks like a character flaw.
So the app is fine, the system is fine, it's everything underneath it that no one checked.
Here's the metaphor she builds the first section of the book around. You wouldn't try to tune a high-performance engine while it's running on the wrong fuel. You wouldn't hand someone complex driving instructions and then wonder why they can't follow them when they've been awake for 22 hours. The brain is the engine, and most of us are running it into the ground and then wondering why every focus system we try falls apart at week 3.
So we're not fixing the wrong behavior, we're fixing the wrong layer.
That's the book's first and most important argument, and it's one the productivity world almost never makes because it doesn't sell anything. Over the next 4 sections, we're going to build this out completely. We start with the body, not as a warm-up, but as the structural reason every other tool keeps failing. Then we get into the mechanics of attention itself, and why what you think focus is isn't quite what it is. Then we hit the section where that Harvard finding fully lands, and where the reason you'd even want to fix your focus shifts entirely. And then the last section asks the question most focus books never get to at all.
Which is what?
Once you've reclaimed your spotlight, what do you actually point it at? That's what the end of this video looks like. Someone at a window actually seeing what's outside it.
And right now, most of us are missing nearly half of that, just gone somewhere else while it happens.
That boundary isn't fixed. That's the whole point. Let's start with why it keeps moving in the wrong direction and what it actually takes to shift it back. Before focus is a choice, it's a condition. And most of us are trying to make that choice on a foundation that was never built to support it. Here's something that genuinely unsettled me when I first came across it. Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania ran a study on sleep restriction. They had participants sleep for 6 hours a night over 2 weeks. Then they tested their cognitive performance. What they found was this. Those participants performed as poorly as someone who had been awake for 24 hours straight.
Okay, that tracks, right? Less sleep, worse performance. I don't think anyone would argue with that.
Here's the part that doesn't track. When those same participants were asked how they felt, how impaired they thought they said they were fine. They said they'd adapted. They felt like they were functioning normally.
Wait, so they were running at basically zero and thought they were fine?
They had lost the ability to accurately measure their own impairment. The deficit was invisible to them. And that's what makes this so important. It's not just that sleep deprivation hurts your focus, it removes your ability to notice it's happening.
That's genuinely unsettling. You can't even trust your own read on how you're doing?
And yet, most of us are doing exactly this, regularly. More than 70% of American adults sleep with their phones on their nightstands. Late evening is often the only unscheduled time in the day, so we protect it, we extend it, and we flood it with screams that suppress the very hormones our brains need to wind down.
I'm definitely guilty of this. I tell myself I'm just gonna watch one more thing and then...
And then it's 1 a.m., and you've learned everything there is to know about competitive deep-sea welding.
Documentary, very important documentary.
The comfortable trap is the exact right phrase because it doesn't feel like deprivation. It feels like downtime. But beyond the hours lost, there's something deeper. Chronic sleep deprivation doesn't just slow you down, it narrows you. Studies show sleep-deprived people become more rigid in their thinking, more binary, more stuck, less able to see around a problem, less able to pivot. And that connects to something much larger, the kind of brittle, polarized thinking that's become the background noise of modern life.
That's kind of a dark thought. Like we're all just tired and calling it a worldview. And because everyone around us is equally tired, there's no baseline left, no reference point.
She doesn't make that claim directly, but she doesn't have to. The data on sleep deprivation and rigid thinking is clear on its own. The connection between exhausted minds and hardened positions isn't a metaphor, it's a mechanism, and it runs quietly beneath everything.
Okay, so I get it. Sleep matters, eat well, move around. This is basically the same advice every doctor has ever given. Get your basics right and everything else follows. It's useful, but it's not exactly revolutionary, is it? This is the health chapter before the real stuff starts.
That's a completely reasonable read, and it's exactly what I would have thought before I really sat with what she's arguing. She's not saying take care of your health so you can be more productive. She's making a structural argument. The brain cannot build the skills of attention, cannot rewire towards sustained focus on a depleted foundation. It's not that the techniques don't work, it's that they can't work until the infrastructure exists to support them. The body isn't the warm-up act. The body is the room where focus actually lives. So every time I tried a focus system and it fell apart after 2 weeks, that might not have been about the system. It might have been about what you were asking the system to run on. Here's where this shifts from corrective to genuinely fascinating. Researchers sent 56 adults into the wilderness for 4 to 6 days. No phones, no devices, no connectivity. Then they tested them.
And just being away from the devices was enough. No special training, no structured program?
The result was a 50% increase in problem-solving performance. 50% after less than a week.
Just from being outside?
From being outside and away from constant demands on directed attention. There's a theory called attention restoration theory. It distinguishes between 2 types of focus. Top-down attention is deliberate and effortful. Bottom-up attention is pulled naturally. A bird in branches, light on water. Nature activates the second kind, and while that softer attention is engaged, the exhausted, deliberate kind rests and rebuilds. The brain doesn't need to be taught to restore itself. It just needs the right conditions, and nature provides them almost automatically.
20 minutes a day. That's less than most people spend scrolling before they even get out of bed.
And the threshold isn't heroic. It's 2 hours a week, less than 20 minutes a day. Any nature counts, even a city park. Most people already pass by more green space than that without ever stopping to let it do its work. The body isn't just the vehicle for the brain, it's the brain's environment, and the brain can only do what its environment allows. Which means every focus technique that doesn't start here, with sleep, with movement, with recovery, is trying to build a second floor on a house that doesn't have a foundation yet.
So we fix the foundation first, and then what?
Then we look at the brain itself, because focus isn't one thing, it's a spectrum, and most of us have been using the wrong part of it for almost everything we do. The foundation choices happen before the day makes its demands. Movement, sleep, time in open air, these aren't luxuries, they're infrastructure. And once the foundation is in place, the next question is which beam to reach for, because most of us have been using the wrong one for almost everything we do.
So it's not about turning the dial up higher, it's about learning which setting actually fits the task.
That's the whole skill, precision, not intensity, and it changes everything about how you think about focus. In the next section, we build out that architecture, and we land the finding that reframes the entire reason you'd want to fix your attention in the first place.
It's like the world gets sharper when the brain finally has what it needs to actually look at it.
Fix the foundation, then we can talk about what the brain is actually capable of and what it's been doing with your attention all along without you realizing it. Your attention is the most powerful tool you own. The question is whether you know how to use it. In 1890, more than a century before social media, the psychologist William James wrote something that still holds up. He said, "Attention is the taking possession by the mind, in clear and vivid form, of one out of what seem several simultaneously possible objects." Taking possession, not passive reception, a deliberate act of choosing what gets to be real.
What gets to be real is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
It really is, because James also said, "My experience is what I agree to attend to." What you pay attention to, you experience. What you don't attend to might as well not exist. And once you sit with that for a moment, the stakes of distraction change entirely. It's not that you're less productive when you're distracted. It's that your actual life, what you experience as your life, is shaped by where your attention lands. They are there, but they are not being experienced. And the person sitting across from them has no idea they're only partially present until, slowly, they do.
I've been on both sides of that, and honestly, the being unseen one is worse.
So let's build the framework, because it changes how you think about what you're even trying to do. Attention is the broadest mode, a roving spotlight, aware of many things at once, not committed to any of them. Think of sitting in a busy restaurant. You hear the music, other conversations, the door opening. Nothing is demanding your focus. Everything is registering.
That's the default mode, the background hum.
Then comes concentration, the flashlight. You've narrowed towards something specific. You're tracking the conversation at your table. Other inputs are still there, but you're filtering. You're making a sustained choice about where the beam points. You've narrowed towards something real. Other things are still registering, but they're no longer competing for the same resource. That's the difference. And then focus, the laser, deep absorption. The external world falls away because one thing has become so vivid that the rest no longer registers. And here's the part that changes everything. These aren't three versions of the same effort. They're three different tools, and we've been reaching for the laser when we needed the lantern and coasting on the lantern when the moment needed the laser.
I definitely do the reverse of this. I try to hyper-focus on things that don't need it and then zone out on things that really do.
Which is statistically the most common approach.
I've absolutely done this. Full concentration on something that didn't matter while something that did quietly fell apart behind me. Okay, so the key insight is that focus is basically a muscle, right? The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. That's the whole game. You build discipline through repetition, and eventually you just have better focus. Same as the gym.
That framing is everywhere, and it's not exactly wrong. Practice does matter. But here's where the metaphor breaks, because the muscle metaphor suggests that more effort is the answer, and that's not what this is. The skill isn't intensity, it's precision. It's knowing which mode, the lantern, the flashlight, or the laser, the moment actually requires. Forcing laser focus onto a simple email is exhausting and wasteful. Applying only diffuse attention to a conversation that matters is a betrayal. The question is never, how hard can I concentrate? The question is, what does this moment actually need?
So the problem isn't that I can't focus hard enough, it's that I'm using the wrong setting for almost everything.
Focus is a dial, not a switch, and the skill is learning to turn it deliberately. When the right mode meets the right task, something settles. The effort stops feeling like fighting and starts feeling like work actually getting done. Remember that number from the opening, the nearly half? Let's land it. Researchers contacted over 2,000 people at random moments throughout their day, hundreds of thousands of data points, and they measured 3 things: what the person was doing, how happy they felt, and whether their mind was on what they were doing. People spent 46.9% of their waking hours thinking about something other than what they were doing. And when they looked at what predicted happiness, it wasn't the activity. It wasn't the situation. It wasn't the circumstances. It was how often the mind wandered. That was the strongest predictor.
Wait, not even what they were doing?
Not the activity, not the job, not the relationship, the presence. And here's the part that matters most. The wandering wasn't a result of unhappiness. It came first. It caused the unhappiness. Think about what that means. You've probably told yourself, I'll feel better when this is done, when things calm down, when I get to the next phase. And this is saying that's not where it comes from. The life you're trying to get to, it's already here, and you're spending nearly half of it somewhere else. The irony is almost too perfect. The device meant to connect us to the world has become the primary way we disconnect from it.
So if the wandering causes the unhappiness, and it's not about the activity, then fixing focus isn't about getting more done, it's something else. I just don't know what that something else is yet.
That's exactly where you should be. Hold that question, because the next part moves into practice, what returning to presence actually feels like, day to day. And then we answer what you just asked, what the something else is, and it's not what most people expect. But here's what we still haven't addressed. Knowing the stakes doesn't make it easier. The wandering mind has reasons, habits, patterns, pulls. And the next section is about what it actually takes to return, not as an idea, as a practice, a daily one.
Is this where we get to the meditation part?
We get to something harder than meditation and more honest about why meditation alone isn't enough. The corridor is the practice. The screens are everything that pulls your mind away. The ground under your feet is the present moment, alive, whether you notice it or not.
So we're already in it, and the door at the end is, what, the actual return?
The return is exactly it. And that moment, moving toward it, is where the next section begins.
That door has been there the whole time, even when we weren't really looking at it.
We're halfway there. The architecture is clear. Now we build the practice that makes it real inside an ordinary day. And when the screen stops showing everything else and starts showing you, that's the shift. That's what we step into next. The hardest place to be is exactly where you already are. Not somewhere else, not some future version of your life. Right here. This moment, the one that keeps slipping. Montminy has a moment in this section that I want to use as a way in. She describes a period in her life when she was documenting every meal she cooked, every step, every photo for her social media community, staging the ingredients, thinking about the caption while the onions burned, and she realized one day that she hadn't actually cooked a meal, Not really. In months. She'd been producing content about cooking. The act itself had become invisible to her.
That's more relatable than I'd like to admit. Not the cooking part specifically, but that feeling of doing something while being completely somewhere else.
That's not an accident, and it's not a character flaw. It's something researchers have documented. We spend close to half our waking hours thinking about something other than what we're doing. Not because we're lazy, but because the mind by default is a planning machine. It's always running scenarios, reviewing the past, building models of what comes next. The present moment on its own is not what the brain evolved to prioritize. Understanding that design is the first step. It lets you work with it instead of against it.
No panic, no guilt, just you went somewhere else. And here's how you come back. That's a different frame than most people have for this.
And this is where Montminy's framework shifts from architecture to practice. She's not asking you to stop planning or stop thinking about the future. She's asking you to notice, which is different. The first skill isn't sustained presence, it's the return, the practiced return to now. You go somewhere else, you notice you've gone somewhere else, you come back. That's the whole practice.
So it's not never wonder, it's more like learn the way back.
Exactly. The wandering isn't the failure. The failure is not noticing the wandering, or harder, not knowing how to return. She also makes a distinction most focus conversations miss. There's a difference between attending to process and fixating on outcome. We're outcome obsessed. We cook while thinking about how it'll look. We sit in meetings thinking about what it means for next quarter. And what that costs us is mastery itself. Because the only place you can actually improve at anything is inside the doing of it. Every step is where the skill lives. The landing just tells you if the steps were taken well. Most people only ever look at the landing.
So the answer is mindfulness. Be more present. Meditate more. This is basically the whole mindfulness movement again, which isn't a criticism, it's just people already know this, and most of them try it and it doesn't stick.
I'd push back on that. Not on meditation, on the framing. When you say be more present, you've described a feeling, and feelings don't have traction. What Montminy is doing is different. She's making the case that presence isn't optional, not as a wellness preference, but as the mechanism of a good life.
The Harvard study, the nearly half thing.
Yes, the Harvard study. It found that people whose minds were on what they were doing were happier, no matter what they were doing, even something as simple as washing dishes. Not because of the activity, because of the presence in it. That reframes everything. It's not a technique, it's a truth about how human happiness actually works.
There's something almost radical about that. Just doing the thing in front of you, fully, without an audience, and finding out that's actually enough.
Stillness is where this section lands, and it's probably the most countercultural idea in the book. Not because stillness is rare, but because we've built a culture around filling silence. Every gap in the day becomes something to occupy. Commute, podcast. Standing in line, scroll. 5 minutes before a meeting, check your phone. The idea that those gaps are something to inhabit instead of fill runs directly against how most of us live.
I definitely treat empty time like it's a problem, like something went wrong.
That moment right there, that's the practice. Notice the pull, set it down, look around, find what's actually here. It takes about 4 seconds, and it costs nothing. And those small pockets of unscheduled time are where the nervous system exhales, where intuition surfaces, where the brain catches up to itself. They're not gaps in the productive day. They're the maintenance that makes the productive day possible. This is what the research is pointing to, underneath all the language about attention and productivity. Not that you should be more efficient with your time, but that the time itself, this moment, this ordinary Tuesday morning, is the substance of your life. The thing you're building toward is made of these moments, and nearly half of them you're not in.
That's a harder thing to sit with than I expected.
Most people find that it is.
Earlier, you said the book ends somewhere unexpected, that the answer to why focus matters has nothing to do with productivity. We've been building toward that this whole time. So, what is it?
Something you had at 5 years old. Something that got quietly taken from you. Something that comes back when the noise finally clears. The drawing is still bigger than the list, in every person. The question is only whether they can find their way back to it.
We've been walking through that corridor this entire time, and now we're at the end of it.
This is what reclaimed attention makes possible. Not a cleaner inbox, a chair that faces the world, a window that actually gets looked through. Almost there. The hand is already moving. Everything in this video has been the walk toward this moment.
You said at the start the answer has nothing to do with productivity. I believe you now. I just need to know what it actually is.
This is where we started. That same street, that same ordinary life. What changes is not the street, it's who is looking at it, and how fully.
The phone is off, they're facing the door, something shifted, you can feel it.
That light has been there the whole time. We just needed to finish the walk before we could see it clearly enough to say what it is. The spotlight is yours. We're about to find out what it was always meant to illuminate. In 1968, a researcher named George Land gave a creativity test to a group of 4- and 5-year-olds. The test was originally designed by NASA to identify innovative engineers and scientists. 98% of the children scored at what the researchers defined as genius level. The same children were tested again at 10, 30%, at 15, 12%. And when the same test was given to more than 200,000 adults,
2%?
2%. And Land's conclusion wasn't that creativity is rare, it was that we're all born with it, and something takes it from us, deliberately, gradually, systematically. He called it non-creative behavior, learned in school, rewarded in workplaces, and reinforced by a culture that prizes the right answer over the interesting question.
And nobody noticed it was happening. It just became normal. Until curiosity started to feel like something kids did, not adults with responsibilities.
Here is the question the book has been building toward. Not, how do I focus better? Not, how do I get more done? Those were always the wrong questions. The right question, the one Montminy is really asking, page after page, is this. What did you lose, and how do you get it back?
The creativity, the curiosity, the thing that was at 98% when we were 5.
That's exactly it. The curiosity, the creativity, the capacity to be genuinely absorbed in something, to listen so fully that the other person feels it, to be so present in what you're doing that the outcome stops mattering more than the doing itself. All of that was there at the beginning. All of it erodes when attention is constantly pulled away, and all of it comes back. Not instantly, not completely, but measurably, genuinely, when the noise finally clears and the spotlight learns to hold still. This is what the book is actually returning to you. Not a productivity upgrade, not a better system, your own attention aimed at your own life, so that what was there before the noise moved in can surface again. The listening, the wonder, the open, alive quality of a mind that is actually present for what it's doing.
So when you said in the opening that the answer has nothing to do with productivity, you meant it literally. The point of focus is not output, it's access. Access to the version of yourself that got quietly buried.
Exactly that. And that's the book's quiet trick and its quiet gift. It starts where you think it's going to start, with the familiar language of focus and distraction, and it ends somewhere most self-help books never go, with a question that has nothing to do with your inbox. What do you want to be present for? What were you like before the noise taught you not to be? The book doesn't promise you you'll never be distracted again. It doesn't sell you a system that holds forever. What it offers is a reframe. And once you've really absorbed it, it doesn't fully go away. The distraction will still come, the mind will still wander, but you'll know what it costs you now, and you'll know the way back.
Which is honestly more useful than most systems that promise you'll never need to come.
The spotlight was always yours. It just needed somewhere worth pointing. Now you know where to look. This is what was on the other side of the door. Not a system, not an upgrade, just the world. Ordinary, alive, and finally getting the attention it deserved.
Honestly, if any of this landed for you, just go read it. The link's in the description if you want to grab a copy. It's the kind of book you can read in a weekend and think about for the rest of the year. See you in the next one.
We'll see you there. And if you got something out of this one, please give us a like. It helps more than you think. And if you want to make sure you don't miss the next one, subscribe. We'll be here.